There's a reason Gordon Ramsay is so famous. It's not just his yelling, which, don't get me wrong, can make for amazing memes, nor is it his talent, which, for a man who has enough Michelin stars to start his own galaxy, kinda speaks for itself. His charisma and good looks play a role for sure. I mean, who doesn't love a dashing rich asshole who plays a charming testicle on TV?
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
But to get to the essence of Gordo, why the man has more TV shows than he does Michelin stars. That's a callback way too early. You need to understand how Gordon utilizes an often underlooked trait amongst men: empathy.
What made you want to get involved with this?
It's a good question, really. 20 years ago, I got dealt a dysfunctional card. My little brother became a heroin addict, and my father became an alcoholic. What do? Do I sit there and join my little brother, or do I become an alcoholic alongside my father?
You see, Gordon Ramsay is a master at manipulation, and specifically at forming incredibly personal connections with his guests in order to produce top-tier drama through the medium of reality television.
It's not a fucking game for me, this is my life. It's not a joke for me. Don't stop saying that. It's not a joke. It's not a joke for me. I care. If I didn't care, I wouldn't fucking be here. So stop saying I don't care. Just stop, please.
I haven't said that.
And holy hell, does this man have a lot of shows. There's the ones you've probably heard of, like Hell's Kitchen or Kitchen Nightmares. But then there's the F word, Hotel Hell, Gordon Ramsay's Home Cooking, Ramsay Behind Bars, Ramsay's Great Escape, Ramsay's Best Restaurant, Ramsay's Ultimate Cookery Course, Gordon Ramsay Uncharted, Gordon Ramsay Performs Open Heart Surgery. Okay, that last one I made up, but the rest are real, and for better or worse, many are hit shows syndicated worldwide. This is on top of the 58 restaurants that Ramsay owns internationally, many of whom are multiple star-winning, extremely in-demand experiences.
And stay next to him and don't let him cook a fucking thing. And you, open those big eyes and watch what the fuck this guy's doing.
Yes, chef.
Shut it, shut it, shut it!
Which is really wild when you realize this man is most famous for being an utter and complete to people.
As pissed as I am! You fucking are! Donkey!
No.
He's not just for the yelling, however. Much like a Two-Face or Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Risotto, he's just as infamous for his kindness and humanity.
So close. You can do better.
I know I can do better.
You can do better.
I know I can do better.
Turn around and tell him that. He's paying your salary.
Spending time to counsel bullied or fatherless children, celebrating every brave state-sponsored hero he encounters, and donating vast sums of money to charity. Not to mention, he single-handedly transforms broken businesses into monstrous successes in the span of half an hour every single week.
Yeah, I mean, what a fucking embarrassment. Eric, you knew I was coming for lunch today.
I didn't know whose you were. I said, which one is this? They wouldn't tell.
And uplifts amateur cooks into the next generation MasterChef. MasterChef is the survivor of cooking shows. Initially produced in the UK between 1990 and 2001, it was revived, rebooted, and now broadcasts competitions in 60 countries around the world. For the uninitiated, the premise is extremely simple. Amateur cooks gather together to test their culinary skills in an elimination-style competition for the title of Master Chef and a cash prize of $250,000.
Very nervous because the tortillas didn't come out exactly how I wanted them to.
After tens of thousands of applicants are whittled down to a mere 1,000, they compete in a televised audition where an even more mere 20 will be the season selection for the competition.
The winner will receive the most amazing training
In one of my restaurants.
Oh my God! Also, in one of my restaurants.
and in one of my restaurants as well.
When the series finally made it to the US in 2010, Gordon Ramsay joined as one of the 3 main judges alongside Graham Elliott and Joe Bastianich. Much like Shang Tsung of Mortal Kombat, Gordon not only judges the competition, but occasionally participates in them, pitting the contestants against him for their very souls.
Hey, hold up, guys. Stop the clock. Get this. Gordon thinks he can do a one-pot wonder in 30 minutes.
You're making a mistake.
Gordon, your time starts now.
Very few contestants work in the food industry, with the vast majority simply loving cooking as a hobby, and some have arguably used the series as a launching pad for their careers in cuisine. Every season features a series of challenges, mystery boxes, and team competitions to build to an epic finale showdown where the final 3 face off against each other in a deathmatch 3-course dinner. The success of the series comes from a number of factors. Casting agents deserve an enormous amount of credit for assembling a team of large personalities they know will deliver the coveted drama that reality TV has come to offer. Joe Bastianich perfectly encapsulates everything one would want from a smug, arrogant judge with the ego of an overpaid sommelier.
No, Chef, they don't.
We're here to judge a contest. We're not here to eat raw flour.
Graham Elliott was a beloved middle judge by fans of the series, but would leave after 5 years on the show for undisclosed reasons that are still debated to this day. After a few seasons of absence, he would eventually be replaced with Aaron Sanchez, who continues to be the friendlier and pleasant middle judge, not to mention, as a Mexican-American, adds some much-needed diversity to the show. But then there's Gordo, the powerhouse.
Lord have mercy.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
He's actually gonna cut up this chicken with a blindfold?
The cuisine supreme. The master of master chefs, who's the very essence of the spectacle.
He's not gonna fucking butcher me and slice me and serve shit to them. No, chef. Where's your fight, man? It's here, where is it? I've got it, chef. Then wake up, you dog.
He puts his food where his mouth is and throws down with his fellow competitors just often enough to let them know that they're in the presence of a god. Like any good reality TV competition, every season features a wild array of arcs and twists. Competitors who may not have been paying attention to suddenly dazzle with their incredible comebacks.
Yeah, it doesn't have that finesse that I'm looking for. It looks like a hamburger almost.
Villains betray and crush other competitors. Unsung heroes rise from the cinnamon-encrusted ashes to become the legends of the culinary arts they were destined to be. There's gut-wrenching heartbreak as 4 paladins and spoon knights falls to the pressure of baking for the first time. Every soul is a mere macaroon away from victory or defeat.
American-style cream cheese frosting, reminiscent of a carrot cake, was pretty shockingly sweet.
Sweet, it's almost sickly sweet in a way that I cannot take a second bite, which is the last thing you need to feel eating a macaroon, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah. Please step back.
It's life or death on the MasterChef Kitchen 4. And that brings us to Season 10. Every season of MasterChef has a story to tell, but for my money, there's something uniquely special in the series' decade-long spectacular. It starts out relatively uneventful from the hero's journey perspective. Like every season before it, hundreds of competitors test their might in a grueling audition process until the mighty 20 are selected for battle. There was a massive twist in the audition process itself, but we're gonna put a pin in that for now. Because like Gordon Ramsay, I'm an arrogant piece of shit. Like every season, there's a range of big personalities that start to become fan favorites very early on. There's Wuta, a vegetarian school teacher who struggled with adversity and reading early in his life, but now struggles as the only competitor unable to eat meat that he prepares. Considering the majority of the competition outside of pastry involves a living protein, it puts him at a decided disadvantage. And then there's Noah from Georgia, a self-described alpha male who wears overalls in the same way Tim Pool does beanies. He comes out of the gates extremely aggressively, leading to the assumption that he will eventually be one of the toughest competitors to beat.
If you're gonna put a burger in front of us 3 to get your hands on an apron, I swear to God, it had better be a unique burger.
Opposite of his loud personality is Sherry Mukherjee, a white woman desperate to impress her Indian mother-in-law by cooking authentic Indian food at a proficiency level that is well beyond anything the judges were ever expecting.
And his mom was very worried that he would eat nothing but salads for the rest of his life. So to appease her, I've learned to cook Indian food.
Your food is amazing!
Someone who comes to impress everyone is one of the youngest contestants in the show, Nick Diaghivanni, a Harvard undergrad who seems like someone selected out of an Adobe template for successful white men until he begins to grow immensely over the course of the season. Growth happens to a number of characters, like Fred Chang, who enters the season panicked and nervous at every challenge, but eventually dazzles the judges over and over with his incredible performances.
I can't stop eating this personally. Gentlemen, insane.
It's gone.
You know, and one of the quandaries that we find ourselves in, more times than not, Fred, is that we struggle with making decisions. And I think that says it all right there.
I guess Gordon likes it.
There's no debate. That's a yes. Take that.
Then there's Suba. Despite constantly being treated unfairly by both the judges and his fellow competitors in everything ranging from justified annoyance to pretty overt racism, Suba continues to survive way later in the season despite anyone's wildest expectations.
My name is Suba from New York. My entire family is here. My dear wife and 2 children. And my mother, she came all the way from India. What?
He struggles in every group challenge, sometimes due to his own antics and other times because the pressure of the situation simply overwhelms him. Yet despite being one of the only contestants to face elimination even when he's in a winning group challenge, he continuously blows the minds of the judges with his flavoring.
Conjures up everything I think about Southern Indian food. I think the white heat is really great. The cabbage and peas I never had before. Excellent.
Thank you.
And this dish, Suba, is Suba Duba good.
Thank you.
Sometimes they'll criticize his food as looking grotesque until they taste it, and at one point even say he's a literal Jedi with spices.
Actually tastes quite decent.
Yeah, very good. That spice is really good. What did you spice them with?
Garam masala, some smoked paprika, some cayenne pepper, salt and pepper.
Thank you.
How did that happen?
This flavor and the seasoning on certain things is so good.
Wait for a glass of wine?
Unless, of course, he's adding heat to a meal, at which point it's universally too hot for everyone involved.
I have to say, this is the worst looking dessert I've ever seen in my life. It's terrible.
Bro.
It's not only the worst looking, it's one of the worst tasting desserts.
It's so spicy.
Yeah, it's...
I'm sort of...
Man, I know. I'm like...
Why does the dessert have to be that spicy? Honestly.
Suba, you're killing us.
How'd you do that to her?
He's so genuinely positive, optimistic, and charismatic that you could make an entire video on Suba. This season eventually focuses on the ultimate battle, the showdown between Dorian Hunter and an all-American soldier mom, Sarah Faherty.
My name is Dorian Hunter. I'm 45 years old and I'm from Cartersville, Georgia.
Dorian starts the season as a sweet and humbled contestant, constantly amazed at the opportunity that she has to even compete in this show.
To the creme anglaise, and a big fat yes to the apron. Congratulations, girl. Let's get this on. Well done. Good job.
As the first couple of players are eliminated and the competitions begin to ramp up, she quickly begins to separate herself from the rest of the contestants by blowing the minds of the judges with their home-style cooking. Where most contestants pivot more and more to making Michelin-style dishes and plating, she remains consistent until the very end with elevated home-style recipes that spoke to her upbringing and family.
I'm very excited for you guys to taste it because it's my family on the plate.
Her confidence becomes infectious, and while a lot of it lands on deeply held religious beliefs, there's something so satisfying in the confidence of having someone know their food is good and having the judges reflect that. It's never flashy without substance. Instead, it dazzles in not only flavor, but the deep roots and connections every spoonful has to who Dorian is.
Tackling your fears, taking instruction, and then putting yourself on a beautiful cake like this.
Thank you.
Visually, it's breathtaking.
That's awesome, Dorian.
Wow. But then there's Sarah, the all-American superstar who's dealt with high-pressure situations her entire life. Between serving in the military and also managed to raise a family of 3 with her fellow serviceman husband, she has crushed nearly every single challenge that has come her way. And also may have people.
I joined the military in 2008. I traveled the world as an Army interrogator. I spent 1.5 years in Afghanistan on the border of Pakistan. I've been to Kyrgyzstan, Kuwait. When you move around so much, you need something of consistency.
The Senate report details a list of torture methods used on prisoners: waterboarding, sexual threats with broomsticks, medically unnecessary rectal feeding. In one case, a prisoner had his entire lunch tray of hummus, pasta, and nuts pureed and administered by enema. Prisoners were threatened with buzzing power drills. Some captives were deprived of sleep for up to 180 hours, at times with their hands shackled above their heads.
Allegedly. Yeah. I mean, the show is very clear that she's a military interrogator who served during the illegal occupation of Afghanistan.
My heart is pounding because I really want to redeem myself. I'm like trying to read their faces, but their faces are totally blank and I'm getting nothing.
And you can tell immediately why she may have been
true alpha. Lead that team, you never can write that team off. That woman is as tough as nails.
She's instantly likable, beautiful and strong, somehow distilling everything that is the all-American blonde woman into TV perfection.
The military really did a good job in prepping me for this because Gordon definitely puts a lot of pressure on you.
Season 10, season salmonella.
She's both a successful career woman and a full-time mom, as physically strong as she is mentally, and with only a few episodes, establishes herself as one of the hardest competitors on the show. You know, the one to beat. And I'll be honest, I hated her from the get-go.
Here's the thing, it was just on that over-caramelized flavor, but it's got that little aftertaste.
It's kind of like the acidity and caramely taste that you get when you eat cough syrup.
Just like I'm sure other folks instantly loved and rooted for her. Like most reality TV, it takes a few episodes to start falling in love with the characters, and eventually finding who you're going to root for in the competition. Always playing it safe to have a couple backups, of course, but producers know this as well, which is why a well-orchestrated cast will feature lovable oddballs just as much as it does the rawest of assholes. The season plays out like you'd expect for the decade-tennial series of MasterChef. Back-breaking competitions of individual culinary challenges, watching sweat form and drip into exquisite-looking dishes while souls are harvested on live television at the breath of a spoon.
Now the question is, does he forgive you or does he come at you?
I hope it comes at me.
Every couple of episodes, the crew leaves the studio for a team competition featuring a crossover, usually with another celebrity chef or local organization. Sometimes it's a charity, sometimes it's NASCAR, sometimes it's local firemen who, of course, are the real heroes, while sleep-deprived, orchestrated chaos spills all around them. In the early team games, Suba breaks down multiple times, struggling to mentally operate at such a high level.
I cook for my family and friends all the time, but I've never cooked for so many people before, so I'm very stressed.
Only to be rescued by his otherworldly spice majesty.
Let's be honest, you and I are never going to be on the cover of GQ, are we?
No, chef.
No, but the flavors are there.
As episode after episode passes by and more chefs get the metaphorical guillotine of elimination, the true nature of the season starts to take shape. It's through their struggle that you get to really know their personalities, as best as you can get to know another human through 25 hours of knowing them.
This competition is definitely the hardest thing I've ever done.
The dessert, for me, is an insult to France.
Uta, for example, is at a consistent disadvantage being a vegetarian and having to cook meat in nearly every dinner-based contest without being able to swallow it.
When was the last time you ate red meat?
8 years ago.
Who are you going to depend on to make sure that's absolutely perfect this evening?
I gotta taste it. I'm gonna put it in my mouth, spit it out. As long as it tastes good, I'm gonna be happy.
Fred is nothing short of an artist who can paint desserts so exquisite that he almost belongs in a completely separate competition, yet who struggles profoundly with anxiety under pressure that unfortunately would become his undoing.
Please take off your apron, Brie. And head upstairs to the balcony and put on a white one.
Thank you.
Kick ass in top 9.
And of course, who doesn't love Suba?
Get out of there! What are you doing?
I am...
Come here.
Yes, chef. I was.
What are you doing? Come here. Hey,
Yes,
go
sir.
water my plants. Go water my plants in there, middle one.
You could argue Suba survives the series way longer than he has a right to, considering how abysmal he consistently performs in group challenges from the beginning of the competition until its final moments.
I've been in almost every single elimination challenge, but I have survived. I've proved myself before. I'm going to prove myself again.
But there wouldn't be a season 10 without him. Beyond being one of the most creative and unconventional in his dish selection, his wholesomeness is a genuine delight. While there's obviously some dopamine-engineered sadness to any elimination moment,
The dish was dry, and the sausage was a disaster.
seeing Suba finally hang up his apron hits especially hard, knowing what he brought to the series.
I love the fact that you continue to persevere, and that is what people need to do regardless of their field.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
The MasterChef, just like life itself, is about learning to let go. Everyone's time must come eventually, and one must always have your eyes on the prize. Which brings us to the exact midway point through the competition. Lucky episode 13. Most cooks on a professional TV show have what they consider to be their signature dishes and skills. Very few, however, spend as much time making desserts as they do grilling steaks. When it comes to the dessert competition, it often weeds out the cockiest of the walk, and alphas become betas or zetas or...
You got one shot to do this. If I drop it, it's over. I'm going home.
Because you can roast a full pig to perfection, but if you don't know how to layer a filo pastry, then you're as dead as the very swine you wish could have saved you. And it's in this frosted meritocracy that I truly came to love Dorian. She exemplifies such a beautiful combination of pride and humbleness at the same time.
Giving us an amazing entree with what looks to be a delicious dessert. Tell us about that.
The dessert is a chocolate turtle bread pudding, so it's really rich. It should be really rich.
This is a two-hand dessert.
Dorian. OMG.
Oh, thank
Delicious.
Joe Bastianich matches Gordon Ramsay for arrogance, but unlike Gordon, doesn't spend the series screaming at the contestants or even cooking with them. He's a restaurateur, after all, aka a rich asshole. And the show seems to be as much a vehicle for his opulence as it is a job. So believe me when I tell you that any person in the series that you care about is having their life put on the line every time Joe lifts up his spoon. Up until this moment, however, I had never seen him drop it.
I think I'll give you a southern compliment. You put your foot in it.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Dorian, I dropped my spoon to you. Fantastic dessert.
Amazing.
And that sealed it for me. I was going all in. Fuck it. Dorian could get eliminated the very next episode, but I don't care. I put all my chips on the table and I decided I would roll the dice. I am going for the underdog, the humble mother from Georgia. Dorian was my champion. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Still 12 more episodes to go. As the last succulent drops of savory flesh drip from the plate of life into the garbage of failure, one by one the season closed in on its final 3 contestants who would battle it out for the coveted title of Season 10 winner of MasterChef. Then also $250,000. More team elimination challenges, more betrayals and backstabbing, more mystery boxes, more, until the season inched ever closer to the grand finale, with only a few remaining competitors left. In the second to last episode, the entire crew travels to England, Gordon's home turf.
Personally, I'm over the moon. Are we hitting the town later on tonight or what?
No, we are not. We're here to work.
A couple points, mate. All right.
Dorian,
To basically do British shit for an hour. I mean, don't at me, I don't really get empires. The first of many twists is that 2 people would be eliminated, and unfortunately for Suba and Sherry, they finally got the chopping block.
These were all that I had.
we've run out of scallops.
Yes, Chef.
Yes, Chef.
This is all we had, Chef. This was it. The last ones.
Then, to everyone's surprise, Noah, the alpha male grill master extraordinaire, was also eliminated.
Noah, you chose to execute a risotto, which is the most unforgiving, the most difficult, the most time-sensitive carb. and you chose to execute a loin of venison, which is the most difficult, unforgiving protein. One of the two let you down.
Leaving Dark Horse Nick, someone everyone had written off as expendable in the first couple episodes. Dorian, the clear underdog and hero of the story, and Sarah, the torturer. Allegedly. Now, MasterChef is a massively popular television series. And Fox being Fox, you know they want to milk that profitable teat for every drip that's left in the corporate udder. For more information on this, simply watch any of Super Eye Patch Wolf's many videos on The Simpsons. So by the time you make it to the grand finale, you've invested 24 hours of your life on this show. You've waited week after week for the next episode to drop. These aren't just some reality TV competitors you're rooting for. They're parasocial family members that aren't just living their dreams, but yours as well. So many seasons come and go, and the inevitable game of changing loyalties on who you want to see win from remaining contestants plays out. But in season goddamn 10, my champion had made it to the grand finale. And this was an equally significant moment in my life as well.
My end is going to be winning MasterChef, and I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by.
And much like watching your favorite sports team play and lose every time they've gotten close to the Stanley Cup final, I was bracing myself for the worst. Of course Sarah was going to win. It was also predictable. The all-American tradwife veteran who not only worked hard but played by the rules, and while they were worthy competitors, Nick was too young and would have multiple opportunities to grow as a chef, and Dorian was just as wholesome as the freshly baked apple pie she served, but that doesn't win competitions. Warriors do.
Military toughens you. And coming into this competition with that mentality has given me a huge advantage.
Thus begins the 2-episode season 10 finale, the battle of all battles, the final showdown. Whose cuisine will finally reign supreme?
You have your husband Charles here, your sons and your daughter.
Charles, welcome back, sir. Any last words of encouragement?
Dorian, go out and do it. God is with you. Your family's with you. We love you.
Thank you.
Test your might. Test your might.
And so it began, with all 3 contestants bringing their best in the most important fight of their lives. The championship is divided into 3 separate rounds, giving the contestants the ability to showcase their talents by planning and executing an appetizer, entree, and dessert. While the judges aren't supposed to reveal too much in their tasting of each round, it can be pretty clear who impressed them from their animated responses. This is reality TV after all, and the stakes couldn't be higher. After 2 rounds, one of the 3 would be eliminated, leaving the final 2 to battle for extreme supremacy. The first course seemed to be a completely tied affair, each dish looking like it belonged in a high-end restaurant. Nick comes right out of the gates with, I kid you not, a fine dining interpretation of beer pong. It's not something I can even begin to write a joke about because it's frankly a modern marvel that he was able to translate elements of bro college experience into Flavor Town.
The fascinating thing about the way you cook, you practice on a tightrope with no safety net. And so I have to then remove the gimmicks and get back to the heart. The hero's the crab is absolutely delicious. I mean, you fried it beautifully, it's crisp, it's elegant. I love the relish. And the articulation of getting slices of potatoes to souffle into these small, beautiful little discs and stay crisp like that, it's mind-blowing.
Then Dorian counters with a more safe seared scallops with cornmeal tui.
Swill.
It's executed flawlessly, giving Nick perhaps a slight lead, if any. But neither could hold up to Sarah's braised octopus with chorizo ragu.
Let's talk about the octopus. You took an octopus and fried it. The sweetness reminded me of eating fried calamari. The good news is it tasted like probably the best fried calamari I ever ate in my life.
Sarah was battle-hardened, both from previously possibly treating people allegedly during the American occupation of Afghanistan, but also from the cooking competition that she was in. Like the ultimate Karen Kaiju, molded with coerced interrogation techniques and the ability to speak to any manager in the universe simultaneously, she approaches the final fight with laser-like precision.
Good job.
Thank you, Chef.
Experimental, highly difficult, and expertly crafted, Sarah once again was taking no prisoners. On to round 2.
Fight!
Sarah comes guns blazing with a herb-crusted rack of lamb with a vegetable fricassee on the side. At first, it appears to be another home run for the all-American hero, but spending so much time on her lamb made Sarah finally break and make an unwanted critical error.
The disconnect for me is when you put a little fricassee of vegetables like this, it needs to be glazed, finished in like a minted butter. And so I just wish you spent more time mastering those vegetables.
Dorian now had the opportunity to surge ahead, and surge he did. Once again, taking a home-style dish, applewood smoked short rib with potato, and elevating it into something truly spectacular.
Don't get too posh on me.
People think of short ribs with deep, dark, rich flavors, and you were able to lighten it up by rallying behind the fava beans and the spring peas, and that's hard to do.
Thank you.
For the finale, she goes the extra distance with a smoky reveal to add some flair to a dish that is instantly appreciated. Could this be happening? I asked myself. Could Dorian actually win this? Then the Roniverse delivered a twist no one could have seen coming, with Nick turning an all-night study session into an entire work of art with squid ink to create the splatter-like effect. The dish was as delicious as it was creative. Suddenly, this wasn't a two-way race. It was winner-take-all, and only 2 of the 3 competitors are selected for the final battle, the most difficult of all. And while Nick certainly gave everyone a run for their money, in his zest for transforming the college experience into a succulent smorgasbord of delights, he had undercooked the fish ever so slightly. Critical error in any episode, let alone the finale, and one that saw him hang up his MasterChef apron for good. Now, the final fight could begin. Dessert. The dark, sugary mistress that has an endless food graveyard of contestants who couldn't rise to the occasion, much like the very baked goods they hope would crown them champion. Once again, Sarah wasn't fucking around. She delivers another knockout. A chocolate torte with orange zest ganache that looks like it's straight from a page out of a Homes I Can't Afford magazine. The judges all agree it's delicious. So all that remains was Dorian to present her last dish. A person who the entire season defied the odds by taking the love of her family and putting it into her food. And with her final act, Dorian does just that. Her mother's own hands holding the very dish that could make MasterChef history.
Can you give us an insight to the plating and why, please?
My mom passed away 2 years ago, and these are her hands. This plate is my way of bringing her into the kitchen.
It's okay, D.
Take your time.
Got you, D.
If she were here today, she would be so happy that I took a chance on myself and that I actually listened to her for once.
In the judges bite, they chew. Waiting for the judges to make their decision, it took a full 2 minutes and 29 seconds on TV, and you had better believe I was prepared to throw a kitchen sink at the television. They milk you for every last second that remains in the commercially appropriate airtime, making the contestants stand before the world and pretend to act as if second place is a victory in itself, when everyone knows it isn't. There can be only one. This is Highlander. This is Sparta. This is MasterChef. As the final seconds before the announcement came, I had a complete moment of clarity, of calm, what some must refer to when they say Zen or peace. I accepted fate. It's okay. If this plays out like every other show on television, Dorian did her best, and honestly, who in their right mind could have ever thought she would have got this far against
Dorian!
Holy fuck. She won. She won. She did it. The underdog that no one expected defeated the all-American hero. She became the first black woman ever in the history of the competition to win, with an adorable family by her side to lead her into victory. The very inspiration behind her food, the love she shared with others, defeated the evil imperialist juggernaut that stood in her way. Good things can happen to good people. Good things do happen to good people. Maybe the world isn't a complete fuck. Maybe everything is gonna be okay, is what I should have been thinking. But I couldn't savor the victory. Because truth be told, I couldn't stop thinking about Micah. Remember when I said the audition episode of the season had a twist? Well, every season of the show has 20 aprons to give out at the start of the competition, but in season 10 only 19 were distributed this way. When the first contestants were being selected through a pass or fail system, each judge was also given the Jesus-like ability to resurrect a contestant of their choosing and have them atone for their sins in a 3-way battle royale showdown.
So my answer is no.
Gents, I think you two are wrong. I know what it's like to have passion to turn your life around. And that's why I'm going to be giving you this. Oh. This is a battle pass. For the first time in this competition, Joe, Aaron, and myself have one individual judge's save to use across the entire audition process. I'm playing my card on you. You have a second chance to battle it out. Whoever these two guys give their pass to, you're going up against for the last apron in the biggest cooking competition anywhere on the planet. Is that clear?
Yes, chef.
And Gordon Ramsay picked Micah. You instantly feel empathy for Micah. He comes across as deeply wounded and hurt with so much baggage coming from his home situation. He doesn't have the approval of his family to do what he's doing, so unlike every other contestant who are cooking for the love of their loved ones, it feels like he's cooking for the rejection of his.
My dad really wanted me to go to school really badly, and me choosing cooking really broke his heart. When I told my parents that I'm going to audition, my dad told me expect the locks to be changed when you come home.
This isn't just a contest for him, but a second shot at life, and that makes the stakes especially high.
I don't have anybody here supporting me right now, but I do this to be able to pursue a dream that I've had since I was a little boy.
Unlike the others, he doesn't seem to have the same level of basic cooking skills, but by Gordo does he work his ass off. He perches as close as he can to every tutorial to take in as much information as possible, leveling up faster than any other contestant at a frankly stunning rate. While he does come close a few times to being on the chopping block, he eventually blazes past the top 10, and you really start to think he might be the biggest underdog story since Among Us.
Puree is one of the best I've ever tasted.
Yeah, it's good.
But I have to remind ourselves, you're 19 years of age. It's pretty incredible to see you produce food like this. It's sophisticated. It's really good. Good job. Good job. Thanks, Micah.
Watching him mature as the season heads close to its finale and he gets ever closer to the final 5 is to witness a frankly inspiring arc of persistence and determination.
For me, that just shows that I deserve to be here. And I can't help but start to feel hope that I can make it all the way to the end.
And then comes episode 21, Family Day. It makes complete sense for a show like MasterChef to have a family day as a contest when it nears its finale. What better leverage to make the audience truly empathize with the characters than seeing them in the loving embrace of the mothers and fathers and sisters and sons whose lives they could be transforming. $250,000 would be absolutely life-changing for anyone. Everyone on the show has been filming for weeks at this point with very little sleep, exhausted from the long hours and non-stop competition. So as expected, they're as overjoyed as anyone could be to stare into the eyes of someone they hold so dear. Everyone except for Micah.
Mum and Dad can't be here, but tonight, you're not alone, okay? You're with us. You're with the MasterChef family. Remember that, okay?
My culinary dream has never really been positively looked on by anyone in my family. So it's hard. Everybody else is, in the arms of their families. And I'm here the second time with no one in my corner.
Because his never showed up. He's the only person standing alone as everyone around him basks in the warmth of a familiar connection, while he not only has to be reminded of his complete lack of it, but then compete in a cooking competition on the spot.
Your family members are going to be like your guardian angels. They're going to watch and support your every step, keeping you focused from above while you guys cook down here. Family, por favor.
And honestly, I don't know how you could have fixed this. Isolate Micah completely from participating in that episode? That wouldn't be fair. Not have the families come visit? And miss out on so much wholesome TV goodness?
My wife, Sudie, and I noticed when he was young that, of all things, cooking always seemed to light him up more than anything else.
You should be very proud of your son. He's excelled.
Thank you, that's very kind.
But what I couldn't shake was the profound sickness I felt once Gordon Ramsay started trying to act like his surrogate father. And he can never truly be. Because ultimately he's a wanker. No, because he's an incredibly rich and famous chef who ultimately doesn't care about the cast of his shows beyond filming the episodes. He doesn't stay in touch with every failing restaurant owner who cries on his shoulder when Gordon single-handedly revitalizes their business. How could he? As I mentioned before, the man literally has dozens of TV shows with hundreds of guests and competitors. I'd be hard-pressed if he could even name half the cast of the season of Hell's Kitchen Season 3. And as far as being paternalistic, well, that's a massive part of his brand. Gordon does this on a lot of shows. In Kitchen Nightmares, he's even gone as far as getting his guests to go into a confessional and treat him like he's a religious figure.
Okay. Clearing your conscience is about reaching inside and being honest with yourself. Yeah. Biggest fear is what?
My fate rests in John's hands, and that really scares me.
I want this to work desperately. I just haven't got much to work with. That's what I'm struggling with.
Opening up on national television about their biggest fears and failures. He's really, really good at what he does. Using empathy to form a connection with another human for the purposes of making incredibly addictive television.
Oh dear. I don't know what to say anymore.
That was your best service.
Yes, excellent, yes.
As the episode went on, it kept getting worse. Micah continued to break down despite trying his best to be strong, but surrounded by an entire cast having their families cheer them on. While he couldn't see the stove through tears just came too much.
My mother really... My mom really inspired me to get into cooking. And I really wish that she could be here right now. But I can't think about that. I have to stay on my path and make her proud of me.
He's struggling. Do you take that and knuckle down and get immunity tonight, or do you let it affect you?
Gordon would try numerous times to level him up.
Hey, you may not have any immediate family here, but I consider you as family, okay?
Thank you, Chef.
It became such a profoundly cruel and sad spectacle that even then, I wasn't prepared for how it was going to end. In his fugue state, Micah didn't have enough time to finish cooking his protein and would serve it to the chefs raw. There's not a lot of hard rules on the show, but raw meat is as close to an instant red card as it gets.
Let's deal with the elephant in the room. It doesn't look good. Here's the issue.
This would be the moment that Micah was kicked off the show in what felt like the cruelest way possible. Yes, Dorian and Suba and everyone else that brought you along for this ride up until this point moved on and the show rose to its epic crescendo, but I couldn't shake this gross feeling that the entire ordeal left me with. This wasn't epic. It wasn't Food Gladiators. It wasn't Fellowship of the Ladle. It was all just kind of fucked. Maybe Gordon Ramsay isn't the noble Gaddy helping young chefs become the next generation of superstars. Maybe he's just an abusive asshole.
Fucking cook fresh. Thanks to Dickface there. Hurry up, Giovanni.
Yeah, but I'm not Dickface, Chef.
Yeah, say that again.
I said I'm not Dickface,
Yeah,
Chef.
you're pissed, are you?
I'm
not. Fucking look at me in the eyes. Not as pissed as I am. You fucking are.
An example of everything wrong with working in a kitchen. Having a boss or a manager who thinks so little of you as a human that it's appropriate to scream at you until you cry.
Raw, and that's fucking what? Look at the colour of it. Well, I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. What is it? It's overcooked.
And we love it. We love when Gordo gets mad. The numbers from the viral compilation videos of him screaming at poor unfortunate souls prove it. In April of 2018, Chef J. Kenji Lopez Alt wrote, Every time I mention Gordon Ramsay's abusive behavior, inevitably some folks try and excuse it by claiming it's an act. This is not an excuse. When your negative influence is based on your public persona, it makes little difference how you behave in your private life.
You know, and people who say, oh, he only does this for TV, well, I can tell you that's not true. At the restaurants that I staged in, that he ran, I saw the same kind of verbal and physical abuse. You know, chefs throwing pans at cooks for overcooking food, chef throwing pans full of burning brown butter at a cook because they overcooked scallops.
In fact, multiple chefs and restaurateurs have spoken out against the glamorization of kitchen abuse done by Ramsay, and that's just what's front-facing.
Jessie Glenn, a one-time hopeful vying for the MasterChef top prize, detailed her experience with producers in a full exposé for Salon. According to Glenn, auditioners are required to partake in a lengthy personality evaluation and one-on-one with a psychiatrist before getting the official sign-off to join the series. Don't expect to get a copy of the results, though. Glenn says that you're never shown them, likely because the whole point of the test appears to be to glean dramatic traits and characteristics from the contestants so they can be harvested later for a plot twist.
The conditions on competitive reality shows are notoriously horrific. Casts are made to work exceptionally long hours with little sleep, with production teams furiously following their every move, waiting for them to break down.
And she also talked about life after MasterChef and what happened when she got home. She described bouts of crying and depression and how she found that she wasn't alone in feeling it. And she had discussions with other runners-up about how the show took its toll on everyone.
As I spiraled more and more into the depression of researching this, I uncovered darker and darker stories. Chef Jeff Lepoff, a contestant on Hell's Kitchen, recounts
Former contestant Marie Porter, where she describes how friends she met on the show were allegedly physically harassed by judges and producers. She claimed such actions caused contestants to become depressed and suicidal, and said one contestant was harassed so much that she asked to be edited out of the show completely.
The stress from being on his shows is so high that a producer on season 2 of Hell's Kitchen told MASH that the number of smokers on the crew doubled during production. Many of the contestants and crew were also driven to alcoholism as well. According to contestant Tech Moore, the producers would often switch out things like salt for sugar to create drama and trigger Gordon into yelling at contestants. The microphones are always on, including when you sleep, leading participants to start singing copyright music like Taylor Swift songs just to try and get a moment's privacy. Eventually, very few people would sleep at all, because it would give you a disadvantage in the competition. Even Gordon Ramsay's flagship series, Kitchen Nightmares, was itself a nightmare. The show where Ramsay transforms failing businesses into massive successes overnight was actually a statistical disaster. Of the 83 restaurants that have appeared in the series, 61 have now closed down, 2 have moved, and 2 were sold. It turns out the majority would experience an initial boom from having celebrity chefs in town, only to collapse shortly afterwards for a variety of reasons, often citing that the vision for their new restaurant simply wasn't sustainable without Gordon there.
Spokesperson for Ramsay said at the time, "You don't ask to take part in a show called Kitchen Nightmares if your restaurant business is booming, and therefore it is not surprising that many of the restaurants which Gordon had visited over the 10 years are now closed."
It's a lie. It's all a lie. All of it. Nothing's real. Nothing's good. It's all just manufactured lies to cover up an abusive nightmare that grinds people into a fine mulch to be dished out into my trough. During COVID, we all started spending more time isolated away from each other than ever before. Digital streaming services and internet social media consumption skyrocketed, and our minds sunk ever deeper into an algorithmically programmed way of thinking, becoming more angry and frightened as we hunted for likes and clicks, only to escape the sadness with hours and hours of Tiger King. Wacky reality television betraying a world without masks or boundaries, with larger-than-life characters that juxtapose the frightening reality that the planet had become. When we emerged from our agoraphobic cubes to wander the streets again, we had changed a little. When we returned to the grass and touched it for the first time, we knew the world would never be completely the same. Multiple social movements came and went, and a general sentiment of change could be felt to be growing. Elections swapped out neoliberals for the far right, and the far right for socialists and everything in between. And all the final remaining remnants of the necessary and dignified moral order were burned as quickly as the sky did. In blood and tear-soaked vignettes, the world began to see what the empire and everything necessary to keep it operational truly was. As every day went by and the horrified screams filled our screens, the lies that had been the foundational fabric for an entire rotten system was laid bare for the world to see. The blood of Palestinian children staining all aspects of life, and as it flooded, so too did other grim realities. The Congolese cobalt in our phones, the Ukrainian titanium in ore that could be used in the production of weaponry shipped off to Israel or Saudi Arabia, the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, in Haiti, Sudan, Somalia, Myanmar, and the heat. The omnipresent reality of climate change. As every single month this year has broken heat records, and like every other crisis on the planet, it seems like those in power, or those with power, know what's happening and would rather pump oil and doom future generations. Fuck it all. Line goes up. Humanity won't need air or water or a climate that isn't incinerating the life on Earth. It needs quotas. It needs to secure freedom at the barrel of a gun. It needs shareholders to be pleased. It needs mergers. It needs monopoly. It needs control. Today on Earthy McEarthface, we learn that the planet we call home sure is filled with a lot of silly things. And maybe enjoying the odd piece of trash now and then to recharge your brain goo isn't such a bad thing after all. Hi there, I'm Earthy McEarthface, and today we're going to talk about why people watch trash like reality TV and what role entertainment plays in our own psychology. There have been numerous academic studies that look at the reasoning behind why people watch reality TV. In Savvy Viewers and Simulated Reality, an analysis of The Bachelor's appeal to viewers, Scott Hayden Church and Daniel Montez examined a series of studies on the subject. Quote, reality TV consumption is also motivated by factors like self-identification and social inclusion, or the camaraderie developed between friends and roommates, even when they personally did not enjoy the show. People consume media for a variety of reasons, but according to Assistant Professor Matthew Grizzard from the School of Communications at Ohio State University, one of the most significant ones is relatability. We do like to see characters that are going through the same things we're going through. The darker the content, such as horror films or scary shows, the more resilient it may make us for dealing with real-world problems, which may also explain why it can be so jarring for us to see real-world horror in our timelines coming from other parts of the world rather than fictionalized ones. People go on the internet for a multitude of reasons, and if it's to escape and that experience is wrecked by reality itself, then the layer of fiction is lost. So Gordon Ramsay is a manipulative asshole. Truth be told, so am I. Like, I'm not hosting competitions where I milk people's tears and trauma for ratings, sure, but I am manipulating you right now with this very video. I'm editing and writing the script in a specific way to try and situate you in my personal POV when you may have watched season 10 and walked away with a completely different experience. I'm picking the music from thousands of songs in a catalog to heighten specific emotions as I tell you a story that keeps blurring the line between confession and criticism. Seriously, like, listen to what this last part sounds like just with different music. As every single month this year has broken heat records, and like every other crisis on the planet, it seems like those in power, or those with power, know what's happening and would rather pump oil and doom future generations. Do you remember this clip from the very start? These aren't even the burritos she made. These are. They were spectacular. I just wanted to make that part of the video funny, and my point is that everyone who produces film or television or even internet content is trying to convey something to an audience. You might be thinking how unfair it was to be so cruel to Sarah when there's no direct evidence of her actually using enhanced interrogation techniques, and she worked her ass off in the competition. It's pretty clear she loves and is inspired by her family, the same things I was praising Dorian for. Reality TV isn't real. Everyone knows this. In fact, MasterChef Junior is so fake that some of the contestants were revealed to just be child actors.
The team behind MasterChef Junior wants you to believe it's a show about 8 to 13-year-olds competing in feats of cooking skill, thinking quickly to meet the chef's surprise requirements for each exciting challenge. In reality, not only do these kids know what the surprise requirement for their challenge will be weeks in advance, most of them are here to become child stars, not chefs. They're cast based on personality far above their interest in cooking. That kid Nathan was an actor for years before the show began and is still acting today.
Under a capitalist system, any competition that offers a large cash prize or a chance at fame is going to be met with hundreds of thousands of participants seeking either. We all know it's manipulated garbage and we still watch it. Just like how we know the music industry is heavily abusive and still sing along to pop songs when they play in our cars.
Multiple things can be true at once.
It can be true that MasterChef as a show and contest is a huge invasion of people's personal privacy and space, where they barely get to sleep, have zero contact with their loved ones in the outside world, and are made to do grueling competitions. And it can also be highly entertaining.
You took 27 minutes making that risotto. I watched you. I felt that across the 27 minutes, you were so close to your risotto, you're almost making love to it. You wouldn't let it go.
That doesn't make it good that people are treated that way or that you shouldn't speak out against the practice. It can be true that Gordon Ramsay is an abusive, manipulative asshole to thousands of contestants and restaurateurs, while also being a source of inspiration to millions more people. Because maybe, he's a person and not a saint or god and more just human and complex?
He has had one of the most traumatic childhoods to exist. He grew up with an angry father who took out his rage on the family. His mother was left beaten and his brother was on drugs. Chef Ramsay escaped the toxic environment by working in the kitchen.
And normalizing men being open about their trauma or stress or anxiety is a beautiful thing indeed. That doesn't excuse being abusive to other people, and for the love of God, it's healthy to call out that distinction. It's okay to have loved Harry Potter as a kid, or Ren and Stimpy, or anything else that was created by people who turned out to be absolute monsters. So maybe you don't have to feel guilty for enjoying trash. Maybe some garbage every now and then doesn't have to have a deeper meaning or purpose outside of that it brings you joy. Maybe you love a terrible pop song that your friends tell you isn't music. Maybe you've watched Troll 2 for the 100th time because it genuinely brings you joy and makes you laugh. Maybe silly TikTok videos or playing through Ocarina of Time a 5th time isn't a waste of your life. Because again, it makes you happy. Who am I to sit here and tell you you're a bad person for enjoying MasterChef when I've gone ahead and made an entire documentary on it? So I'm basically Jesus. MSNBC, CNN, ABC News, CTV, Global, even dare I say Fox News are all giving a manipulated version of world events. And a lot of the time it isn't solely to inform the public on current affairs. It's to normalize atrocities that are done by the empires they call home, because on paper things like the Vietnam War or the Iraq War or the ethnic cleansing of Palestine all don't sound like valiant attempts to secure democracy and freedom. It all made me think of a quote from the poet and author Akala. I often look at the world and just think, fuck it, why bother? But I know that's how we're supposed to feel. That's why the corruption is so naked and freely visible. To wear down people who have the conviction that things could be better.
And then act shocked when it comes up.
No one's prepared to explain what I've said that's bigotry or racist.
1 second. For those who don't know, Baghdad was the intellectual, cultural center of mathematics and art and science about 1,000 years ago for quite a long time. No one blames Islam for that. So negative people who happen to be Muslim, yes, of course, it's your religion that causes it. But if you pioneer mathematics and science and introduce algebra into Europe and the guitar and coffees and lemons, that's not because you're Muslim.
Well, the people...
Okay, I'm going to get an opposing view from different...
And they can be. The one truth that no news report on geopolitics or war or even climate change will emphasize is that we have the time and resources to change course. There is still time to fix our world. Those with the most capital and power will have the most to lose in order to make that possible. So it benefits them the most if you feel hopeless. The world may be burning, but the last thing the fire needs is more despair. If you're not a sports person, don't feel bad. A lot of people aren't. I spent a lot of my life not caring much. I was way more into video games. How could a Stanley Cup final possibly compare to getting the hardest ending in Chrono Trigger? FIFA World Championships? Do you know how difficult it is to beat the Aztec complex in GoldenEye Agent 00 mode? But when you finally get dragged out, kicking and screaming to a couple of good old hockey games with some friends and get into the spirit of the entire event, you start to realize the intoxicating nature of the spectacle. More powerful than even singing the national anthem. Suddenly you're united with an entire town, city, or country filled with strangers rooting for a common cause. You feel both connected and directly influencing the game playing out before your eyes, even though statistically you do very little to affect the outcome. You feel every hit or strike or tackle and fall to the ground devastated at a loss as if the entire world is ending, when ultimately it's over something completely made up and trivial. It's just a game, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels in the moment like everything. And not even each bomber guy could put together a video long enough to try and give a measured response to the horrors that corporations like la Fédération Nationale de Football or the IOC wreak upon the world. The hundreds of millions of dollars spent on building new stadiums, sometimes in horrifying temperatures, the poor labor conditions and importing of immigrants to meet deadlines, the exploitation of every single person whose names will never be known to history that worked their ass off at some point or another to bring the entire extravaganza to its jaw-dropping finale. It isn't something that you think about. At that moment, all that matters is the game, or the story, or the triumph that you feel that you're not only witnessing, but participating in. The same can be said today for politics in the real world. It's been completely transformed into entertainment, and the biggest show on earth is the American election every year. Watching it unfold, especially when it's a contest between who can be the worst old man for the job, while the world is burning, just feels both like a participatory event and also one so far removed from your participation that in its own way is a disconnecting experience, especially when your team loses. I know what you might be thinking. Politics aren't a video game or a sports final, they're real life. They can directly impact people's living conditions and healthcare. In the other direction, there are people who are revolted by the very concept of having a movie or a video game contain anything related to what they see as politics, or reality TV, or YouTube video on reality TV. They just want to enjoy a thing without being reminded of the real world. Politics, the art or science of government or governing, especially the governing of a political entity such as a nation, and the administration and control of its internal and external affairs. Now, when the activities or affairs engaged in by a government concern the ability to have bodily autonomy over making healthcare decisions, or if they police same-sex attractions and relationships, or having the freedom to not be owned by another human being as a form of property, then simply existing becomes a political act. Being a black person in America can be political every day when you leave the house. Being an indigenous person in Canada could mean that you're treated completely different by employers, renters, and police. Seeing gay characters in a video game or a movie isn't indoctrination. You're just used to seeing straight heterosexual romance and love and perceive that as being normal because it's the default setting you're most familiar with. Straight people aren't exposed to bisexual love or homosexual love and perceive it only in fragmented stereotypes and cliches that are usually also dehumanizing. The intersection between politics and culture, between the court and its jesters, becomes more blurred the more they serve the interests of one another. Having more access to each other's cultures and music and poetry and film should make us feel more connected to the human experience, yet instead algorithms push us into being more polarized and mad at each other. Escaping into an amazing book or film, or dare I say even a complete season arc of a cooking competition, can be in its own time-consuming way a far better use of time than endless doom scrolling on whatever's left of Twitter at this point. And in one crème fraîche, strained orchestra of Gordo's gastronomic symphony, I genuinely marveled at a seasonal arc that built up and delivered a hero's journey with a fantastic ending, only to have the reality of reality TV destroy the illusion. Who knows? Maybe in an AI content-generated future where there's an endless supply of Gordon Ramsay-themed nightmare plastic morphing into each other, I'll look back and long for the days when reality TV still demanded some reality. But that's just it. There was this moment in the season that blurred the line between entertainment and reality, escapism and reality, fiction and reality.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans?
Even though reality TV isn't reality, it still features real people. It still has real crew members and cast working to create entertainment. Sports is just a game. but it's also a job for the players and the coaches and their drivers and the millions of people globally who build stadiums, spend their paychecks on tickets, and make the spectacle possible. Politics are both entertainment and legislation. A vote is your participation in democracy, but when the same politicians you vote for end up betraying the working class in favor of lobbyists and corporations, then there's a disconnect, a distance. In that distance can develop the defeating encroachment of futility, frustration, anger, hopelessness, complacent, and depressed, just getting through the day while being unable to shake the feeling that something is wrong.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
An idiot sandwich, Chef Ramsay.
The good news is that it can ultimately only pacify us so much, because in the end, we're all pretty big softies, by which I mean empathy is a natural human emotion, adapted through generations of evolution and shared with some of our closest primate cousins and ancestors. Reality TV works because we can identify and empathize with the human beings behind the larger-than-life personas. It makes us hit the streets in disgust when our social media is flooded with injustice. It gets us to call our neighbor or tell our family to donate some money or time to a cause. Whenever there's a mass shooting, it's followed by a line of volunteers literally willing to donate their own blood to try and save lives, because deep down that's who we are. On any given day, humanity can and has changed course completely to make the world better for the many, not the few. And even if we don't win, at least we went down swinging. That's a decent arc. A worthy one. A good episode. To be honest, something I'd watch.
A nice colour on the onions, let's get that right.
But you see, here's the problem. There's no soup in your soup.
Oh my God.
Now, before we get to the epic finale, I just want to take a second to thank you so much for watching this. It means so much to me to be able to share a little part of my brain with you, and the fact that you sat through the entire thing and, haven't turned it off, or maybe even want to share it with someone else, really, it means everything. This project has evolved, obviously, over a long course of time, and it wouldn't be possible at all without the financial support of Patreon. Which is why I just want to say that there's a super secret special ending to this entire documentary that is available only at patreon.com/the Serfs. Also, every single Patreon person who made this video possible will have their names in the credits very shortly. And if you just want to share this video or give it a like, a thumbs up, a comment, or post it somewhere else on the internet, it honestly would mean the world. But sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time to watch it.